Well, I got the vertical fin on and got it down in the front and down in the back. It went on pretty good. Problem is, now that I got it on, I can see that this front post sticks down way below what it needs to. It'll interfere with the trim. It's below where the jack screw goes into this jack screw bushing. So I'll have to take that out. I'll mark that and take that out and cut it off. Well, I cut 1 9/64 off of the tail post there. Not the tail post, but the vertical fin, the front leg on the vertical fin. So that should lighten it up some, ounce, half an ounce or something. Maybe make up for a nut plate or so. I've got the vertical fin in. I put a little bit of grease in that tail post tube. Then I put a bunch of peralkatone on the vertical fin post when it goes down in there, so it slid down in. It's coated, and that'll seal up between the two of them and it'll dry out and make a nice tight seal in there to keep any moisture from running down in there. And the front one I didn't do much of anything to after I had it greased up to put it in there the first time, and then after I pulled it out and cut that tab off there, I just stuck it in there. And I've got the rudder hanging there. It looks pretty good hanging there. So I checked this alignment between the vertical fin and the tail post here. I mean the tail post of the airplane and the rudder, and that'll determine how much you have to adjust the vertical fin. We want an equal distance here between the lower section of the rudder and the rudder post and the upper section of the rudder and the rudder post, the fixed portion that's on the airplane. So we get down here, 1930 seconds. 1930 seconds, that's pretty darn close. So right there is where the rudder goes, or the vertical fin goes. Okay, now that that's set, the distance between the rudder and the rudder post is virtually the same between the bottom and the top there of the rudder post. So now I need to drill a hole through this mount bushing, I guess it is, and that front tube, and so we can get that locked in place there in the front. Okay, this bracket goes in there. Probably a good idea to see where to put it with a pulley on it. So it doesn't really make any difference where that goes. This is for that trim bungee. Okay, I can line this up. There's a scratch mark right here where that slid up and down in there, and that pretty much centers that on that pipe, on that tube. Well, the vertical fin is installed. I got the hole drilled. This is the mount here for the pulley for the bungee, for the elevator bungee. I used a long 1/8 inch drill bit to pilot that. I had a center line marked here pretty good from where that slid up and down in there. That marked the center of that tube pretty good. I was able to line up down that, and I center punched a hole there, and then I drilled the hole out with an 1/8 inch aircraft style, like it's a 12-inch long drill bit. Started from this side, put a pin in and drilled through the bracket and the tube, and then put a pin in there to hold it. Went around the other side and drilled it out. Then I was able to get a number 11 drill bit in there to drill that hole out. And it took an AN 4-12, said with a castle nut on it. Used 2 thin washers, one on each side, and a castle nut on it. So that's in. Now the tail post is drilled and bolted in, and that I've got a bolt in that too. It'd been nicer if you used a screw instead of a bolt on that, and the head would be rounded and it wouldn't show through the fabric and stick out so much there. But a bolt is what Piper uses, and so that's what Piper gets. Now to do that, I got this, drill that hole straight through. I got this little jig off of eBay from a motorcycle outfit in Japan, and it's intended for drilling holes and handlebars for motorcycles, I guess, but that's what I got it for specifically, is this and putting the landing gear horn in the bottom of the rudder when I put the rudder on, so you can drill the hole straight. Anyway, we drill the hole straight in these tubes, and that worked really good. Put a little bit of tape around there, clamp that on there, put this down, put this screw down in tight against it, and used a number 11 drill bit and just drilled right through there, and it drilled a nice straight hole through both sides of the tube. I put a thin washer on the outside here just because to help keep that bolt from protruding any farther than it needs to. I wanted a washer underneath it so the head doesn't twist in on this tube, but I didn't want any more protrusion than I needed, so I used a thin washer on that one and then a thick washer on the inside where it doesn't really matter, and that's just enough. We got about 2.5, 3 threads sticking out of that. Since I got the fin on, we can install this fairing, this, call it a saddle or fairing, that fares out this run between the vertical fin and the stringer that runs down the center line, top center line of the airplane. They got this from Univair, and it's got a hole in it so that if you have to take this jack screw out, you can push that jack screw, cut a hole in the fabric and push that jack screw up through the hole in the fabric and take it out. So this is what it looks like here. Got little ears on it, this hole in it, and it fits right on there like that. What I've done here, I've got a piece of 5/8 inch tubing, thick tubing, the same diameter as the jack screw, and I stuck that down through the bushing for the jack screw, and I just line that hole up with that bushing. And I take a drill and drill a hole through the forward part of this saddle here and into that tube, and this is a tube on this one. A lot of times stringers, so original ones were wood, and then the one on the other airframe was an aluminum stringer. This one was permanently welded in, and it was a steel tubing. So we'll go ahead and drill a hole in that and put a pop rivet in it, or a rivet in it, yeah, just a pop rivet. A cherry rivet is actually what I'm going to use, and rivet that front down, and then we'll put a screw in back here and squeeze this together to clamp that down back here. The other airframe, the front up here was held down with a big gob of strapping tape, and it was taped around there pretty good, and that absorbed moisture and swelled up, and it made kind of a nasty spot in the fabric right there. Well, I'm going to go ahead and drill this out and put a countersunk, a flathead rivet in there. Now, all that good tape job, I'll just go ahead and take it off and deburr that hole. Okay, a deburring tool won't go on the underside of that hole, so we'll have to live with a burr in there on the rough side of it. Like everything else, I'm going to make a mess with that. Oops, get a paper towel and wipe off the... And I'll put some Peralcatone in that hole all around it. I should put some Supercub in that portion of the hole too on that. Line up there. I haven't dipped the rivet in it. Okay, that's fared in pretty nice. It's a lot better having a flathead rivet in there than this. Screw is much longer than what I want in there, but I'm going to put it in there to line those holes up, and then I'm going to squeeze this together with the pliers so that I can put the shorter screw in. I took these slip joint pliers and put some heat shrink tube over them and tightened it up so that they don't mar everything up when I'm using them. Okay, I should be able to get that other screw in there now. This has to be in far enough, the screw is short enough so that it doesn't protrude out into the fabric. Now, as with everything else, I'm going to put some Supercub on that. Even though it's a stainless steel screw, I'm going to put an Supercub nut here. Nut everything. If I wait to put that on until after it's all together, then it doesn't get down in underneath the washers and in the screw and stuff. There's places that are not coated with the Supercub, so I can always wipe it off, but it's hard to get it. There we go. That's nice, that's tight, and that doesn't protrude out into the fabric on either side when you fare the fabric out here. That little saddle fairing is in. Now I have to be careful when I push that back in here in the hole to get it out of the way up front, or to work on the front, that with the fin sticking up there, I've got to watch out. It gets into those tail feathers hanging back there and it kind of clatters them, so I have to watch out for that now. I'm going to go ahead and hang that rudder on there, and I'm going to set up my rudder cables. Okay.